There is a silence deeper than words. It is the silence that follows betrayal. Not the loud kind with slammed doors and harsh voices, but the quiet kind where your heart begins to whisper, "This is not love." Yet you stay, you explain, you forgive what was never asked to be forgiven. But beneath the surface, your spirit knows it is being used. Stay until the end, not because of what you will hear, but because of what you will remember. Not about him, but about yourself. And ask yourself, what is the sound of a soul crying quietly through a smile? In the heart of every man is a quiet yearning, not for noise or spectacle, not for conquest or praise, but for stillness, where the truth is no longer hidden beneath layers of distraction. And in the journey through love, trust, and betrayal, one must walk carefully through the fog of words, where not all speech is rooted in truth, and not all silence is born from peace. One of the most deceptive phrases that can veil the truth is simple and often softly spoken. You're overthinking it. At first, it sounds innocent, a kind reassurance perhaps, a way of telling you to relax, to let go. But within this phrase lies a subtle dismissal, one that quiets your deepest wisdom and clouds the inner compass meant to protect you. What is thought if not the flowering of consciousness? What is reflection if not the soul's way of turning pain into clarity? To accuse someone of overthinking when they raise concern is not to soothe them. It is to suppress them. And often it is done not out of love, but out of fear, fear of being seen, of being held accountable, of being known too deeply. A Zen teaching speaks of a student who watched his master walk the same path around the temple each morning. For years, the master traced the stones in silence, occasionally bending to touch the earth. One day, the student asked, "Why do you always walk in circles, master?" The master replied, "Because even the same path offers different truths. If you look with new eyes, what we call overthinking may, in truth, be deeper seeing. Imagine a woman sitting across from someone she loves. She notices inconsistencies in his words, small omissions, shifting stories, details that don't quite align. Her heart tightens, not in paranoia, but in recognition. She brings it up gently. He smiles and says, "You're overthinking it." She falls silent, ashamed of her own awareness. But awareness is not a flaw. It is a gift. When the mind and heart begin to align, they do not create confusion. They create insight. The unease she feels is not disorder. It is a whisper from within trying to rise above the noise. In nature, deer does not need to explain why it flees at the rustling of leaves. The bird does not question the wind before taking flight. There is a knowing within living things, and knowing we too possess. But when someone tells you that your discernment is wrong, they are not calming your fear, they are protecting their own concealment. It is a little known line from the Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi. The torch of the heart must be its own flame. Do not let another blow upon it. Even in kindness, to think deeply is not to mistrust. It is to honor what your experience is revealing. Trust is not blind. It is seeing clearly and still choosing peace. So ask yourself not whether you are overthinking, but whether you are being encouraged to think less, feel less, question less. In the quiet space behind those words, you will often find a deeper truth waiting to be spoken. And then, when the flame of your awareness is lit once more, you may begin to see the second shadow, just as subtle, just as dangerous. You're too sensitive. Sensitivity is not fragility. It is depth. It is the ability to feel life fully, to notice its textures, its shifts, its hidden tensions. When someone says you are too sensitive, they are rarely talking about your nature. They are defending their inability to treat it with respect. There is a story from the Shaolin tradition about a monk who lived in the mountain temple alone for many seasons. He was known for his silence and his calm. One evening, a visitor came and spoke harshly to him, criticizing his way of life. The monk said nothing, only poured tea. When the visitor took a sip, he spat it out. It was bitter. "Why would you serve this?" he asked. The monk replied, "You brought bitterness, so I returned it." Sensitivity is not weakness. It is reflection. Sensitive soul mirrors the energy it receives. It does not fabricate it. In the real world, sensitivity often appears in quiet moments. When someone speaks carelessly and you feel your body contract. When sarcasm is used like a knife and you are told to laugh it off. When pain is dressed as a joke and your heart knows the difference. A person in tune with their sensitivity is like a finely strung instrument. The strings are not too tight, they are precise. They resonate with what is true, they vibrate with beauty, with pain, with joy, and they do not ask for silence, only respect. To be told you are too sensitive is to be told that your natural response to harm is inconvenient. It is a call to numbness disguised as concern. It is a request to stop feeling so that another can continue behaving without change. But remember, it is not the river's fault if it overflows when the rain is heavy. It is not the fault of the wind if the chimes ring loudly in the storm. Sensitivity reveals what is present. It does not invent what is not. There is a phrase in old Buddhist texts, lesser known, but deeply profound. The lotus blooms only where the water is undisturbed. The sensitive soul cannot thrive where its depths are constantly rippled by disrespect. It needs calm. It needs care. It needs to be met with gentleness, not accused for needing it. And so, let the transitions of these thoughts be slow, like walking through a misted forest at dawn. One step, one breath, one awakening at a time. If someone tells you that you are overthinking, breathe and ask, what is my heart trying to tell me? If someone says you are too sensitive, breathe again and ask, what part of me is reacting with truth? You are not a burden. You are not broken. You are a vessel of awareness carrying truths that others may not yet be ready to see. But just because they cannot see does not mean you are blind. Hold your intuition with reverence. Hold your sensitivity like a sacred flame, and let both guide you out of the fog back to yourself. Not hurried, not afraid, but calm, awake, and finally whole. In the heart of every man is a quiet yearning, not for noise or spectacle, not for conquest or praise, but for something far more elusive, presency. Yet when that presence becomes scarce and its absence is disguised as nobility, the heart begins to hunger in silence. One of the most delicate veils placed over emotional neglect is the phrase, "I'm just really busy." These words, often with a sigh or a soft smile, carry the weight of withdrawal, not truth. To say one is busy is not inherently dishonest. Life, indeed, is full of obligations. But when it becomes a constant curtain drawn between two souls, it stops being a fact and starts becoming a defense. A way to say, I do not choose you, but I will not say it directly. True love is not measured by the length of messages or the volume of words. It is measured by the consistency of intention. Where energy flows, priority is revealed. And if someone's energy flows everywhere but toward you, it is not busyness, it is avoidance. In the teachings of the mountain temples, there is an old story. A disciple once asked his master, "How do I know if someone values my presence?" The master replied, "Observe the rain. It falls equally on all things, yet only those who are open receive it." The disciple asked, "And what if they close themselves to the rain?" The master smiled and said, "Then they cannot complain of the drought." When someone is always too busy for you, yet never too busy for others, it is not rain you are waiting for. It is recognition. In the quiet hours of daily life, this neglect often hides in plain sight. A woman reaches out with a small message, hoping for connection. Pass, then days. A short reply arrives, empty of warmth, absent of questions. She tells herself, he's just overwhelmed. But days turn to patterns, and patterns reveal priorities. Still, she waits, excusing each silence as circumstantial. Silence, repeated enough, becomes a language. The oak tree does not need to announce its presence each morning. Its very being provides shelter, strength, and stillness. A partner who loves you may be busy, but their essence remains present. They return not just in body, but in spirit. They show that though their hands may be full, their heart has not forgotten. There is a saying by the poet Han Shan, hidden in the creases of old scrolls. The mountain is still, yet it speaks to the clouds. Even in stillness, there is communion. So when someone tells you they are too busy, ask not with your mouth, but with your soul. Are they still speaking to me even in silence? If their absence carries no echo of you, then perhaps you have become invisible in their world. It is not a crime to be occupied, but to consistently withhold presence without truth or tenderness is to deny the relationship the very air it needs to breathe. From this point of stillness, where you begin to recognize absence, deeper wound often reveals itself. When your needs grow and your voice dares to rise, you may be met with the most piercing phrase of all, "You're the problem." These words are not correction. They are projection. They are the final turning of the mirror away from the speaker and back onto you. A deflection so smooth, so often repeated, that over time you may begin to believe it. But the truth is, a man who cannot hold his own reflection will always hand you the broken pieces of his mirror. There is a parable from the Shaolin paths about a monk who trained for many years in silence. One day, another monk grew jealous of his calm and accused him of being arrogant. The silent monk replied, "If the bowl is bitter, do you blame the one who offers it, or the one who tasted sweetness and now finds the truth sour? Those who are not ready to look within often throw blame outward, not to harm, perhaps, but to survive their own shame. Yet intention does not soften impact. To tell someone they are the problem is to plant doubt in the soil of their soul. And doubt, once planted, grows quickly, especially when watered by love. In real life, this sounds like small refrains. If you weren't so emotional, I wouldn't pull away. I only act distant because you're too needy. You're the reason this doesn't feel right. Each phrase rewrites the narrative, turning the cause into the cure, and the cure into the disease. But you are not the problem. You are the one holding the weight of unspoken truths, of unmet promises, of emotional distance wrapped in politeness. To absorb constant blame is not strength, it is surrendering your reality. There is a lesser known teaching from Bodhidharma, founder of Zen in China F. The wise man blames neither the wind nor the sea. He sits and watches the reflection in the water, waiting until the surface is clear. To see clearly, you must first still the waters of your own self-blame. You must stop carrying the guilt that was never yours. This moment of realization is not loud. It does not announce itself with fury. It arrives like the first cracker of light beneath a tightly closed door. And once you see it, you cannot unsee. The man who tells you he is too busy is teaching you where you stand. The man who tells you that you are the problem is asking you to carry his wounds. The journey of awakening begins not with anger, but with stillness, with the quiet act of not agreeing to carry what was never yours. You do not need to argue. You do not need to convince him. Truth does not require witnesses. It only asks that you listen to yourself. And so you return back to your breath, back to your knowing, back to the place before words, before blame, where the heart simply knows. If a tree bends too long toward a sun that never shines, it does not bloom. it begins to wither. But if it turns even slightly toward true light, it begins to live again. Turn gently. Turn inward. Turn toward the places where love feels like peace, not persuasion. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining things. You are simply beginning to see. And in this seeing, may you find the courage not to fight for presence, but to become it, not to chase truth, but to return to it. In the end, when a man is using you, he does not need to raise his voice. He only needs to raise doubt. But when a woman begins to remember herself, not even silence can unmake her truth. Let the remembering begin quietly, fully, forever. The man who uses you is not always loud. He is often gentle in tone, but sharp in presence, like a wind that whispers comfort while stealing your warmth. Your soul was not made to shrink. It was not built to beg for time, clarity, or truth. You are not too sensitive. You are deeply alive. You are not overthinking. Our awakening walk away not in anger, but in honor. Leave not because of what he did, because of what you have finally remembered. Your peace is sacred. Your presence is a gift, and real love does not confuse. It clarifies. Breath teaches us. We do not need to hold on to survive. We must learn to release, and in doing so, become whole again. Let this message echo in your spirit, not just today, but whenever your peace is questioned. Watch again, not to remember him, but to remember you.